Organizational climate. Organizational climate refers to a broad class of organizational variables that influence work performance. It can be defined as the situational consistencies in the organizational treatment of individuals. In general, organizational climate is the prevailing atmosphere or environment within the organization. Within the present classification system, climate is broken into three categories, that is, structure, policies, and culture. The term structure refers to the formal component of the organization. The form and shape of an organization are reflected in the chain of command, delegation of authority and responsibility, communication channels, and formal accountability for actions. Organizations with maladaptive structures, that is, those do not optimally match to their operational environment or are unwilling to change, will be more prone to mishaps. Policies refer to a course or method of action that guides present and future decisions. Policies may refer to hiring and firing, promotion, retention, raises, sick leave, drugs and alcohol, overtime, accident investigations, use of safety equipment, etc. When these policies are ill-defined, adversarial or conflicting safety may be reduced. Finally, culture refers to the unspoken or unofficial rules, values, attitudes, beliefs, and customs of an organization. The way things really get done around here. Other issues related to culture include organizational justice, psychological contracts, organizational citizenship, behavior, and union or management relations. All these issues affect attitudes about safety and the value of a safe working environment. Organizational climate is a factor in a mishap if organizational variables including environment, structure, policies, and culture influence individual actions and result in human error or an unsafe situation. Organizational processes. This category refers to the formal process by which things get done in the organization. It is subdivided into three broad categories, that is, operations, procedures, and oversight. The term operations refers to the characteristics or conditions of work that have been established by management. These characteristics include operational tempo, time pressure, production quotas, incentive systems, and schedules. When set up inappropriately, these working conditions can be detrimental to safety. Procedures. Procedures are the official or formal procedures as to how the job is to be done. Examples include performance standards, objectives, documentation, and instructions about procedures. All of these, if inadequate, can negatively impact employee supervision, performance, and safety. Finally, oversight refers to monitoring and checking of resources, climate, and processes to ensure a safe and productive work environment. Issues here related to organizational self-study, risk management, and the establishment and use of safety programs. Organizational process is a factor in a mishap if organizational process such as operations, procedures, and operational risk management and oversight negatively influence individual, supervisory, and or organizational performance and results in unrecognized hazard and or uncontrolled risk and leads to human error on an unsafe situation. Social influences on creativity have received a huge amount of attention in the scholarly research, especially of late. This is because social process and structures represent such dramatic influences on creativity. Very likely, no creative potentials would be fulfilled without social support of some kind. Moreover, creative efforts often would go unrecognized without social attributions and recognition. Some creative people work for that recognition. Many are influenced along the way by competition and other social situations. Industries and organizations attempting to stay competitive, diversify, and innovate look to situational influences in order to ensure that the creativity of their employee is supported. For those reasons, the second part examines the organization, teams, and the like. Yet, social influence is a broad concept and covers more than organizational issues. Many influences on development and growth, for example, including this presented by parents and teachers, reflect social processes. In that light, this one perspective on social process with complementary perspectives given covering the developmental, cultural, and historical perspectives. The various social perspectives are quite practical. Indeed, the developmental, educational, and social or organizational research demonstrates very well that creativity is a practical concern and not just an academic topic of study. This practically will be obvious in the discussion of organizational theories, for these tie innovation and productivity to different aspects of the creative process. Some may operate on the most general level, namely within society at large. The effects are apparent in indicators of aggregate creativity. The homology assumption. The homology assumption, put simply, refers to whether there is a concordance between the behavior of two offenders and their subsequent background characteristics. It could be argued that this is also a form of consistency, that is, consistency between the behavior and backgrounds of different criminals, as stated by Mokros and Allison. Offender profiling involves the process of predicting the characteristics of an offender based on information available at the crime scene. Decisions about the likely socio-demographic characteristics of that person are made on the basis of behavior. If it is possible to infer something about the person from what happened at the crime scene, then any two persons who commit a particular type of crime in roughly the same way should be rather similar to each other. As a consequence, offender profiling in its conventional form is non-conditional linear process. If conditional, then rules were included to accommodate for individual peculiarities, situational influences, or non-deterministic relations. The resulting profiles would contain either or predictions. To give an example, if excessive violence in class of sexual assault could be associated with the antisocial personality disorder or intoxication of the offender, the profile for a given case where increased levels of violence are present could predict either an antisocial perpetrator or a person with proneness to substance abuse or a combination of those two. The homology assumption as it stands is not unique to the profiling approach known as investigative psychology. All inductive trait methods of profiling rely on concordance between the current offender and those characteristics of past offenders. In other words, there is an assumed sameness in the similarity relationship between domains of crime scene actions and democratic futures. The more similar two offenders are, the higher the resemblance in their crimes will be. The proposition extends beyond the degree of similarity between behaviorally similar offenders. The assumptions hold not only that two different offenders who are behaviorally similar will be demographically similar, but also that offenders who behave similarly will be demographically similar to future offenders who exhibit the same behavior. Otherwise, the homology assumption would only be true of one group at one time, rendering the theory redundant. The assumption of behavioral consistency does not subsume the second assumption. If, however, the homology assumption is found to be valid, the assumption of behavioral consistency must be valid as well. The reason for this is the self-similarity of individuals. One person has to remain rather consistent in his or her actions if the correspondence of similarity relations holds between a person's characteristics and behavior. This is not the last of the problems with the homology assumption. However, it also presupposes to a degree that the behavior of one offender that is similar to that of another will have a similar origin. That is, the cognition or motivation for the behavior is assumed to be similar given that behavior is similar. This assumption is flawed because different offenders will do similar things for different reasons at different times. Possible reasons for these changes, as outlined by experts, the self-efficacy mechanism also plays a central role in human agency and motivation. It is partly on the basis of self-perception of efficacy that people choose what to do, how much effort to mobilize for given activities.